Hey guys, it's Ross, and I'm by the greenhouse right now. I've just been checking on my trees and seeing what's going on. I know for a fact that I probably had killed some trees, and it's finally kind of warm out. Finally got some time to just take some trees out of the greenhouse. There's enough daylight, even though it's kind of dark right now. It is actually like only 5:30 here, so we do have like another hour and 30 minutes before the sun really goes down. But yeah, I just had some time to, I took some trees out of the greenhouse to see what the damage was, because what ended up happening was that I was trying to see what effect bolting would have this year. And if you haven't seen my videos on bolting, it's the process in which I call it that. It's the process of how a fig tree puts out fruit without pinching. And I think depending on the variety, each variety needs a certain amount of heat. And what I did last year is they were in the greenhouse, and that was my first year with the greenhouse, and I had blasted the heat in March, like March 1st. I started to kick the heater on, and I had put the heater on to wake the trees up. And shortly after some of the trees woke up, specifically my Azores Dark tree, shortly after that tree woke up, I ended up getting figs, main crop, and that was like sometime in early April. And then I ended up getting my first main crop fig off of Azores Dark by July 1st, which is incredible. It really is astounding here in really even in like a European Mediterranean climate. A place like Italy, parts of Italy, they don't get main crop until August. So to have main crop a whole month earlier than a Mediterranean climate is kind of incredible. And like I said, especially here. And that process called bolting, I wanted to put that to the test again this year, because I had only really seen it with one variety, my Azores Dark. I hadn't given enough trees last year enough of a chance in the greenhouse to really prove themselves and prove this bolting process. But this year, looking at some of my trees and unfortunately seeing a lot of them that are dead, because by blasting the heater so early and blasting the heater so much, I had ended up killing some trees. It just got too hot in there. I didn't water the trees quick enough. And some of the trees had the new growth that they put out. That really thin, small growth that was just being put out wasn't strong enough to hold up to the dry heat of the heater, or maybe even the high temperatures in the greenhouse from the sun. And I lost some trees. But the good news is I did prove, I think, that bolting is a thing. And whether or not we want to call it bolting, I don't care what you call it. But I think there should be some kind of term for when a fig tree actually puts out a piece of fruit without any external help, in terms of like pinching. So if I pinch, we have a term for that. But if the fig flowers and puts out a fruit on its own, I feel like we need a term for that. And I think we need to figure out why that happens, whether it's some kind of sunlight requirement, a heat requirement, is it just time? And so far I have discovered that it's some kind of energy requirement plus heat, and the majority of that is heat. So I don't know what specifically that amount of heat is, but I would say if your fig tree is putting out pretty strong growth and you have temperatures above 90 pretty consecutively, your nighttime temperatures aren't really dipping below 70, for like 10 days in a row, it may trigger something in the fig tree to then flower and put out those fruits for us. And I want to show you a couple fruits. I want to show you guys the greenhouse. I want to show you guys what's dead so you can avoid this problem if you guys ever have a greenhouse for yourselves. And just, take inventory of what's going on here. I watered everything yesterday, kind of looked at everything, scratching my head a little bit, kind of formulating some opinions. So let me show you guys some things and you can formulate your own opinions. So let's get into this. So here's some trees I had taken out of the greenhouse. And first I want to note is that this is Desert King. It's in a 5-gallon container. It has 3 limbs that grew quite well. I only pruned off the tips, so just the very tippy tops. I had left every single node that it grew last year, which was, if I count these nodes from last year, it probably was easily, let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Probably 9 times 3, so, because there's 3 branches, there's 3 limbs here. You know, that should be a lot of Breva, you know, if I had 9 limbs of growth last year. But I only have 2 Breva. You know, here's the second Breva, and there's the other Breva. So this is going to be rootstock. I'm going to be grafting onto this 100%. I don't have time for Breva if I'm getting main crop July 1st, which I will again this year. I may even get some in June this year. I also have a Dauphine tree, which gave me absolutely nothing. This is Dauphine. I think I did prune this pretty decently, but it's not giving me anything. You can see that some of this new growth is dead because of the heater. And here's some new growth that came out with no leaves on it because the leaves got fried. What's interesting though about the Desert King is that it actually is putting out main crop. So there's, you know, in every single node there's 2 nodes coming out, and some of them it's more prominent than others. Like here, you know, the main crop is coming out. My Desert King has no problem whatsoever putting out main crop. Last year I had probably 20 or so main crop fall off. It's kind of incredible. Here's another tree that got fried. This is a tree, Flanders, that, see how it's bent over like this? This was on the top of the greenhouse. So this limb was touching the top. And I think a couple cold nights, you know, I know heat rises, but some really cold nights, I had woken these. I first turned the heater on in the greenhouse, by the way. Let me open this up for you guys. The door gets stuck. But I had opened the greenhouse this year, the 1st of February. And you can see there's a pretty decent amount of growth in here. Some way more than others. Not the kind of growth that I want. Some things are dead. I have some tropical things in here. This is a loquat that got fried from a lack of watering. I completely lost an Australian beach cherry back here, which I can maybe get a close-up on when I actually get in the greenhouse. But the greenhouse was woken up, or this heater here, this really small space heater, I kicked this on at night and during the day in February. I don't think it's worth waking these trees up in February, at least where I live. I'm going to be waking them up in March 1st like I did last year. I think that's much better. There's too many things that can go wrong in February, too many freak cold events that could happen, and that's kind of exactly what happened to this Flanders here, is that I think we had a really, really cold night. And when we had those really, really cold nights, I mean like 0 degrees, even like 5 degrees to 0, this heater couldn't heat this whole thing. Especially to the tippy tops of the ceiling here. So what I had done is I had to get blankets. These are like moving blankets, and I had a tarp, and I just threw this over the ceiling of the greenhouse, covered the entire thing really well. It really insulated the whole thing really, really well. When it did get down to like -1 here, that was the low we got this year. But yeah, I mean, a couple other trees. This is a tree that may be dead. This is Gros Gris de Notre Dame. And a little disappointed about this one because it's supposed to be quite a reliable fig, even here. It's a French fig, but this one I think is gone. We'll see if something comes up from the roots. You never know if there's something, you know, maybe at the base here that could bud out for me. But I want to show you guys these trees before I put them back in the greenhouse, because that's eventually the plan. I can't keep them outside for too long. We may have a frost coming in. This is a tree that I'm going to use as rootstock that I had in the greenhouse. I'm glad I took this out. You know, here's another tree that got completely fried. I don't even know what this is. it looks like there's a tag missing, or so I don't know how upset I have to do some kind of inventory to see process of elimination what this is, which really sucks, because one, I lost a tree, two, I don't even know what it is, so I can't really, it could be worse later on when I find out exactly what this is. I did kill my Black Beauty 10 tree, which really sucks. I killed a yellow long neck tree that I got from my friend Vito. I killed Paradiso Giovanni that I got from my friend Raphael. I killed quite a few really small trees. This was a tree here that I had put some grafts on. The grafts had never took, it seems, and as a result the tops got really dried out. In fact, most of this tree got dried out. And what I'm doing now is letting these lower branches grow. This is Gillette, I believe, another Breba only tree. Just not a tree that I want, and I'll let these branches grow here and then graft something onto them. So all is not lost there. This is a tree down there that's dead. I lost Vincenzo, I believe. I lost this was my Col de Dame. Oh no, this is Gillette. So I had some varieties grafted onto this as well that then died. This is my Col de Dame that I was telling you about. This is Col de Dame Noir. And this thing was massive, and now this is all that's left, is this one new branch that's coming out. What is nice though is that this thing may actually fruit for me this year. So we'll see, but you know, let me just show you guys real quickly. I don't want to go over every single tree, but I will show you guys some main crop that is forming, like right here. You know, that's tough to see, but main crop is forming on this tree. What variety is this? This is De La Caseta, a pond fig. It's like an Adriatic type. So this is another tree that's forming figs that are quite more visible. And you can see that on, this is Spy from Israel, by the way. And you can see that over here, you know, this branch, the growth isn't very strong. And again, down here, the growth isn't very strong. But on the one limb that the growth is strong, it is forming figs, and they're coming out now on every single node. The same thing with this tree in the middle here, if I can get to it. This is Suati, really putting out figs more than any other tree I have. There's like 3 limbs right now with figs on them. Here's another limb and another limb right there. So, you know, even though I killed some trees, like maybe my Sultane tree here is dead, I am getting main crop that is forming. I'm even getting some Brebas that seem to be a little late forming in now, which is kind of strange, considering how, you know, these trees have been awake for quite some time. Well, and that varies. So even though I woke up my trees February 1st, that doesn't mean they all woke up February 1st. Some of them had access to greater heat, which caused them to wake up earlier than others. But now we're in the greenhouse here. I have all kinds of pomegranates in here. Things that mostly are deciduous. And if we get in here, let me show you guys some more fruits that are putting out main crop now. You know, a lot of them were much more visible yesterday. Here's a tree back here. I don't know what variety this is, but you can see it down in here. You know, it's putting out main crop now all over the tree. Here is another tree behind me that's putting out figs. You know, all up and down this thing. It's tough to see. This variety is, I wonder if there's some kind of correlation here with the variety. I guess, you know, what my guess is here, if I can get this tag, this is Bibera Branca. And my guess is that certain figs just don't need as much heat to trigger into fruiting mode. I think even this tree is kind of putting out figs, and that branch is not very strong yet. My Azores Dark, which if you look down here, it's really tough to show you guys stuff in here. It's hard to move, but that orange pot, that's the Azores Dark pot, and there were some trees in here. So this Azores Dark really wasn't getting hit by, like, the roots were not getting hit by the heat. I expected that the roots have a lot to do with it, heating up the roots, but you can see on the Azores Dark tree, there's a main crop forming. You know, again, pretty incredible to be getting main crop this early. You know, and the goal here, I guess, would be to try to get as many trees to fruit. There's a tree down there that had like 5 Brevas on it. It looks like 3 of them are dropping off, and it's holding 2. I don't know what variety that is, but that's my best Breva producer, and it's probably not it's definitely not a San Pedro type. Why do we have San Pedro types? I don't know. Here's another fig down here, which is producing main crop. I mean, I could probably show you at least 5 more trees that are putting out main crop. I can't find them right now, and this video is dragging on. So anyway, guys, I'm going to turn you around, and I'm going to exit this video for you. But I hope you guys learned something from this. You know, my suggestion with the heat and to not kill your plants would be to come in here with the heater and ease into the heat. Don't go full blast from the start. I was really trying to jump start them awake, and then as soon as they're awake, you really got to be careful with the heat, because then that small growth that comes out can easily get fried, and you could create yourself a problem. So, and then the trees that are on the top layer, you know, because heat rises, those are the trees that are going to wake up first. Anything on the bottom layers, you know, I have trees 5-6 pots high. The ones on the bottom are not, they're not awake, and they don't need to be watered. If you watered them previously, you mulch them, you water them prior to putting them in here, they are completely fine. It's really just the trees that were on the top that weren't mulched well, that were getting blasted directly by the heater. Those are the trees that got fried. So, you know, if you're doing something like this, come in here with the hose and really try to make sure you can get every single pot that's on the top layer watered really, really well. Otherwise, you're probably going to regret it. So, anyway, guys, those were some of the trees, and yeah, I hope we have come to some kind of conclusion about bolting, and we can really talk about it, because when I first made the video, people were looking at me like I was crazy last year. So it's definitely not a variety thing. I think it, like I said, I think it has a lot to do with really the amount of heat that each variety needs to then trigger it into fruiting mode. Things like, you know, later ripening varieties like Col de Dame and Black Madeira as an example, those don't seem to be triggering nearly as easy as something like Azores Dark or Suati or Bibera Branca or some of the other ones I showed you guys, that if you probably were to trace them back to their, you know, origin, their country of origin or their location of origin, you would probably see that they fruit rather early in those climates. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm glad to give you guys this update, and I'll see you guys later. All right, take care.